Hello, everyone. I'm Drake. Welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, I want to talk about a question I have gotten a lot since we started this channel. I know I've answered it in various places, but I don't think I've ever done a video on it, and I didn't see one. And I figured it would be a great thing to do a video on. And that is, do the dragons actually have a language of their own? And if they do, can we as humans learn to speak it? And do they have their own written script? That's technically two questions or three, but I wanted to address those here. First, let's start with the script, okay? Now, many of you probably have seen DJ Conway's works, and there is a script in there. I don't know where that comes from, to be honest with you. I used it when I first started because I followed the book as it was, but working more and more with the dragons, I never saw it anywhere at all in any of their workings or anything. It never popped up, to the point where I asked them about it, and they are unsure of where she got it or from, though they have no problems with people using it. And beyond that, I started to ask them more about their particular script, if they have an alphabet. They have a very, very complex alphabet. It definitely does not mimic what our alphabet would look like and does not translate into our alphabet. So it's not really a script that would be useful for us. As to appearance, though, it almost looks as if it's scratched with a claw or a nail. It's not very fluid or anything. It does look more scratched in its appearance, which makes sense when we consider dragons in and of themselves. And they, according to what they have told me, they do only utilize it in their draconic form when they're actually going to do that. Because they actually do use their claws specifically for the script. I'll admit I'm not an English person, I'm not a literature person, I'm not a language person, so I didn't think to go too deep down in that. And now that I'm doing the video, I might actually consider that at some point if I get the time. Would be an interesting question why they specifically choose that. However, they did tell me that they love languages, they love scripts, they love art and other things. And because of this, they will actually work with any script that we utilize. And at the time I was originally talking to them, I had this long list of magical alphabets. We've all probably seen them if we've been in the practice for a while. And they were more than happy to utilize any of them. I have noticed that different dragons have a different preference on which scripts they think are prettier or more elegant, but they will still work with any of them. So the script itself doesn't make any difference. I have asked before if there's a script I should use, like the preference. That's how I know they don't really have a preference. And they said, no, they don't. Use the one that I'm the most comfortable with if I wish to use a magical script or alphabet, because within Dragon Magic, the script and alphabet doesn't matter. It has no real meaning, doesn't matter. You'd be just as good to use your own familiar human, daily, everyday language alphabet as you would any other magical script. For Dragon Magic, the script does not matter. Now, that's, for me and a lot of other magicians, has been an amazing thing, because it's pretty easy to go ahead and write things out. And well, for me, it's English. For a few of my friends, it's Japanese. A few of my friends, it's Russian. A few of my friends, it's German. A few of my friends is Korean. So it goes across the board. However, at the same time, there are certain workings where me personally has nothing to do with the dragons themselves. Just personally, I want to add a little flair to it. And I can reach out and I can use something like Theban. I can use runic alphabet, which is one of my favorite go-tos for sure. I can use the angelic script if I so choose. And I'm not going to lie, okay, in truth, in honesty, I have done spell workings for tests and fun, and I'm a nerd. In Mandoan, yes, the Mandalorians do have their own script. You can find it online, and I have used it, and it actually got some pretty good results. I don't use it often because it's not, like, it takes a long time to figure out for me. I don't know it well enough. I have to really It's not easy for me to artistically draw it. I'm not an artistic person at all. So there is that. Interestingly enough, I have also, in the research of doing videos like this or answering questions, or more specifically, viewers sending me photos of scripts asking me if this is a true draconic script. They sent me one that looks pretty cool. It does look like it was scratched out in a claw, though the symbols don't match up to anything like what I saw the dragons themselves do. It had that appearance to it, which I thought was really cool. And I actually copied that down into one of my files on the computer to test and tinker with later. Only a year or two later after that, I found out that that is essentially a D&D language, people. It comes straight from D&D, and it is, ironically enough, the draconic language in D&D. Now, I know I'm a D&D nerd. Why didn't I know that before? I don't know. I've never seen the draconic language, or if I had, I didn't remember it. It'd been a long time. There was a good gap between where I didn't have a group. Maybe that's why. But it did tickle me to death that it was there, and it had that scratched look. So I nerded out a little bit on that one. I've tried it with 3 spell workings so far that I can think of off the top of my head. Of those 3, I know for sure 2 of them function. The other one, I'm a little foggy on, so I can't really put it in there. So we'll say 2 out of 3. And if there's any other workings I'm forgetting, I can't put those on there. So we stay at the 2 out of 3. So it proves that even these fictional languages can be used, which for some of you out there, I think is going to be a great thing, because I know a lot of people who are fluent in like Klingon, all the Tolkien alphabets and languages, which, by the way, Tolkien did some amazing things with languages and alphabets, and they are quite beautiful. So you could definitely use Tolkien's version of Elven in your magical works and just be fine. Or you could even design your own encoded ciphered alphabets if you so chose. I've thought about it, considered it in the past, tried it, never got far with it because I suck at coming up with stuff like that, I'll be honest. So that just didn't end up happening. But as far as a script, they do have one. It's not one that I have actually seen published anywhere. It doesn't appear to be one that we could actually do. And weirdly, the scratching on the script itself actually has meaning, like the actual depth, the width and everything. They have a lot of control over that. And that depth is actually part of it. So you couldn't even put it on a flat piece of paper if you tried, because it's flat. It doesn't have that 3 dimensions to it. But it is an interesting concept that they have going, but it's not one that we're going to find on the internet anywhere. But the upside, we can use any magical script we want with dragons if we so choose. That brings us to language. Do the dragons actually have their own language? Yes. And they do utilize it to communicate with each other, especially when they're wanting to communicate something they don't want others specifically to butt in on. And I was asking about this for a while. I even asked once Odin about the language, and he made very clear. He's like, I can't speak it. He's like, I can only speak parts of it. And at best, I sound like a toddler asking for given one word requests instead of sentences. And that surprised me. But when I went and started talking more with the dragons and the rulers and some of the elders and my co-magician on how this language works, my co-magician actually did the best job of breaking it down for me, because this language is more than words. It's more than vocabulary. So when they speak this language, the movement in their scales, the muscle control, their body stance, the way their wings move, the way their tail moves, the way their brow ridges move, literally the energy shifts around them that they create, the vibrations and the different tones, those subtleties that our human brains are not going to be able to pick up on, all these little subtleties and all these little things, much less memorize it in a complex form of language. Because of this, all these things are part of their language. Every word, every syllable has a mixture of all these. You can't just speak it. You can't just do one thing. You You have to move them all together, which is why Odin himself said he can't speak it. It's not because he doesn't have the knowledge. He literally doesn't have the physicality and the ability and the understanding that dragons have of their very specific and unique anatomy, if you will. I guess you would call an entity like that having an anatomy. So those subtleties, even a god like Odin or Thoth, because I had to try, so I went and asked Thoth. He can't do it either. These deities that are well known for knowledge and language and the stuff, they can't reproduce it the way the dragons use it. So for us humans, as far as I can tell, it's strictly off the table. It's not a possibility. Our brains, our consciousnesses, at least at this time, isn't possible. I don't know if that's something that after ascent, it wouldn't be possible technically directly after ascent, because after ascent, at the best, you're a newborn god if you want to take that view of ascent, or you're an ascended master, depending on your view of ascent. Well, entities like Thoth or Odin, they've got thousands and thousands and millions of years upon us, and they haven't figured it out. Is it possible that one of these non-draconic entities one day in the multiverse may possibly figure it out? Maybe. But according to the dragons at this time, none have yet. And I find that interesting. I actually did ask, what about the ones that can shapeshift into dragons? They said, no, they can take on the form, but they still don't know the subtleties. They don't understand the vibrational differences. They can't work within all those muscle subtleties, the scale subtleties, because it's not a natural form for them. There's certain aspects therein that is just still very, very alien to them. And I found this personally fascinating, but at the same time, fascinating, yes. Useful, I'll be honest, I've not really found an actual functional use for this information. And perhaps that's why I don't really talk about it or teach about it on the channel, because I try to teach things that are practical, usable, and viable. And the way my brain's wired, if something's interesting but has no application, I don't tend to think about it. In fact, that's the reason I have such a hard time doing holiday videos. Like, I forget the holidays are coming. Like, people don't tell me holidays are coming. I don't think about them. To me, holidays come and go. They're not a thing I do. They don't really have much use to me. Like, you might say, great, you have a wonderful wife. Don't you want to buy her a holiday gift or a Christmas present? Yeah, and I usually do. But at the same time, I often don't, because I spoil her rotten throughout the year. I don't need a day to buy her a gift or show her I care. So again, the holidays just kind of, that's just the way my brain's wired. And I'm going to make a note, and I'm going to put it in my video planning to remind me to consider these things that I find interesting but not applicable. Because I do think a lot of you would benefit from these videos, because is this directly mechanically applicable to my practice or what I'm going to teach you on this channel? No. However, clearly, hundreds of you all that follow this channel have this question about the draconic language and the draconic script, because I keep getting asked it. And it's a fascinating question. It's an interesting topic. And I honestly, what inspired me to do this video is just that. I think there's a lot of topics that I overlook because of the way my brain's wired about practical application. And if I make that note in my video planning outlines, I think I'll be able to do more videos like this. I'm also going to make a secondary note to always review questions before making my videos or deciding the videos for that week or month, because might be those questions themselves could inspire another video like this, which is what happened. And perhaps maybe one of you all will find an interesting use for this, perhaps. I will say that it's not really a use, but it's something interesting I have found. You could view it as a use. It's not something you yourself do or use, but I have noticed that, like, my guardian and my co-magician will often repeat what I say in a ritual in the draconic language, which begins to ramp up certain vibrations. And I've had them try the same experiment using English, for example, It just doesn't do it. So knowing they have a language, you could request that if they're taking part in spell workings or rituals, that when they're saying the incantations or whatever phrases it is that you are using in your spell working, that they utilize that language to add that vibrational power to it. I would say that is actually a use. I have to stand corrected. I have to correct myself, because that is, technically speaking, a viable use. We can't speak it, we can't write it, but we can request they use it when we're working directly with them in that manner. That would be about the only use I can think of, but it is a use, technically speaking. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you like it. Hopefully you weren't too disappointed. I know I've had a few people that honestly, they full on, like, I swear, I think they were about to cry. They were pouting pretty heavy when I answered this question before. Granted, that was before I started the channel, so I don't know of any of my current viewers who fall into that category. But still, yet, hopefully you didn't find it too disappointing. Hopefully you find it as interesting as I do, because just because it isn't applicable doesn't mean it isn't interesting. There's a lot of things in Magick that I find massively interesting, massively cool, but from a teacher to student, practical application wise, it doesn't seem to go through my brain as something to talk about. But I'm going to try and work on that myself. Hopefully you all have a fantastic holiday season. We're getting ready to come up on the holidays. Stay safe out there. And I will actually try to get another Dragon Magic video for the holidays coming up before Christmas gets here. All right. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Goodbye.